Hello again and welcome. In this video, we are going to look at 500.1, which is the definition section of Reg 500. So if you get a chance, please read the definitions because you really need to know them and it will just really help you. So as we go over the terms, I will not spend a lot of time on the definitions that are not going to be relevant to your role as a security GRC professional, only because there are certain departments in your organization that would be dealing with those terms. Now, the first term here is affiliate. It means any person that controls, is controlled by, or is under common control with another person. So we are not going to worry about this too much because it is going to be out of scope of this program. Next term is authorized users. Authorized users are employees, contractors, agents, or other persons that participates in the business operations of your organization. They are basically those that are given authorized access to information or information systems. And then we have Chief Information Security Officer, or the CISO. That means that person reports to directly to the senior management. So he's basically the head of the cybersecurity or information security department and is responsible for overseeing and implementing the organization's cybersecurity program and enforcing its cybersecurity policies. And then next we have Class A company. So it is not really for you to determine whether or not your company is a Class A company, but for the sake of defining this term, a Class A company has at least 20 million in gross annual revenue in each of the last 2 fiscal years and over 2,000 employees averaged over the last 2 fiscal years, or over 1 billion in gross annual revenue in each of the last 2 fiscal years from all business operations. Then the next term is a covered entity. Again, if your organization is looking for someone who knows about Reg 500, that organization is a covered entity, or working for another organization that is a covered entity, or providing services to a covered entity. And then next, we have cybersecurity event and cybersecurity incident. They are two different terms, but a lot of times people use them interchangeably. Event means any act or attempt, successful or unsuccessful, to gain unauthorized access to, disrupt, or misuse an information system or information stored in such information system. While incident means that it has occurred at the covered entity, its affiliates, or third-party service provider that impacts a covered entity. So, in a nutshell, event will be an attempt, whether successful or unsuccessful. It may be serious or it might not be, depending on what happened. An incident might be more like a breach or a ransomware attack. So, it's something that is more serious. And then next, we have the independent audit. So this is an audit conducted by internal or external auditors who are independent and objective, meaning their decisions are free from influence or pressure in any way, shape, or form by the organization, its owners, or managers, or even employees. So this requirement only applies to Class A companies. Then the next term is information systems. And we defined this in the beginning of this program, and I really hope that you still remember what information systems is. And then we have a multi-factor authentication, or MFA. So it is verifying a user's identity by using a combination of different authentication factors, such as the knowledge factors, possession factors, and adherence factors. Basically, a knowledge factor would be something you know, like a password or a PIN, and then possession factors would be something you have, like a smart card, a token, or a one-time password. And then adherence factor is something you are, so it's your biometrics, like your retina scan, your fingerprint, facial recognition, so things like that. So again, MFA would be the combination of something you know, something you have, and something you are. So for example, you are combining password with a PIN, and it's not really multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication. This is just one factor because both password and PIN would be something that you know. But if you, for example, combine your password with a token, or combine your password with your fingerprint scan, or combine it with your PIN, or combine your PIN with your retina scan, then that will be MFA. And then next, we have non-public information, or NPI. A lot of times, information security professionals would say PII, or personally identifiable information. And then in the healthcare industry, they call that PHI, or protected health information. And in financial services, they call that NPI, again, non-public information. Here we have samples of those non-public information such as names or other personal identifiers that can be used to identify individuals in combination with other information. So information such as security numbers or social security numbers, driver's license numbers, account numbers, or access credentials. So business-related information that will materially impact the business or its operations or security when disclosed to or tampered with by unauthorized individuals is also considered non-public information. So NPI is not just consumers' information, but can also be business-related information. So if your organization classifies these information as sensitive information or restricted information, you will know it because it should be included in your data classification policy or data management policy. And on a side note, make sure that you are familiar with your organization's data classification or data management documents. And then we have penetration testing. So basically, it is when authorized hackers are attempting to hack into your systems. So the key word here is authorized. Authorized hackers or penetration testers are basically information security professionals, and they test the adequacy and effectiveness of your security controls by trying to exploit the vulnerabilities they find. So depending on the scope of their test, they will look for vulnerabilities or the weaknesses in your people, processes, and technology. So the idea is to find those vulnerabilities first, report on them, and fix them before actual threat actors find them. So pen testers are also called the white hat hackers or ethical hackers. Next is person. It means any individual or entity, including but not limited to any partnership, corporation, branch, agency, or association. So again, not for you to decide. Another division will be in charge of this. And so let's move on. Next is a privileged account. Very important to know. That means any authorized user account or service account. Authorized user account is an account set up for an individual. A service account is an account set up so that a system or an application can communicate to another system or another application to perform services or functions. So this account has more privileges than a normal user account unless that user is an administrator. So per Reg 500, a user or a service account is considered a privileged account because you can use those accounts to access an organization's information and information systems. So really, that's a privilege that others not associated with your organization will not have. So it just makes sense that way. However, many information security professionals will define privileged accounts just a little differently because in practice, a privileged account is an account with elevated privileges. meaning it can do more functions, has more permissions, has more access than a standard user account or sometimes even a service account. So this should be defined and documented in your policies and procedures as well. And then we have publicly available information. And that means that they are public information. You are going to see that defined in your data related policy as well. And now we have risk assessment. So I hope you still remember our risk assessment video. And Reg 500 requires that your security program should be based on risk assessments and that your organization should perform. And part of your security program will be your security controls implementation, and that should be based on your risk assessments as well. You can either hire an external company to go in and perform risk assessments for you, or you can design your security or your cybersecurity program around that based on the results of your risk assessments. So you can have or you can utilize your internal resources as well to perform risk assessments. And your security professionals should also be able to perform cybersecurity risk assessments. And then we have a senior governing body. They are the board of directors, the senior management, or the committee equivalent to a governing body. And then we have senior officers. So they are senior individuals responsible for the management, operations, security, information systems, compliance, and or the risks of your organization. And last but not the least, third-party service providers or TPSP. So the definition here is that a TPSP is not an affiliate, not a governmental entity. It provides services to the covered entity. It maintains, processes, or otherwise permitted to access non-public information belonging to your organization. And an example would be if you have a managed service provider that you allow to process, to store, to maintain your data on your behalf. Okay, so that will be a third-party service provider. So again, please read the definition section. It will be very helpful. But that is all for now, and I will see you in the next lesson.